Good morning, everybody. So thanks everybody for turning out and giving us your time. My name is Breed O'Connell from Guaranteed Irish, and you're very welcome. I'd like to thank the host, VIATEL, for hosting us and bringing us out here. And it's brilliant to have a tech event in a tech building, isn't it? Just to see how the other half live and get into their world a little bit. What I would like to say is a lot of people, I suppose, ask why does Guaranteed Irish get involved in tech? People's perception of Guaranteed Irish would have been maybe possibly around supporting food producers or manufacturing, and that has changed over the years, obviously, particularly in the last 6 or so years. We've really, I suppose, looked at the different sectors that make up the Irish economy, and tech is a massive player in that. It supports 146,000 jobs nationally here in Ireland, and it turns over it's worth about 3.3 billion to the Irish economy and the exchequer. So out of the 10 billion that was returned in excess to our government the other day, and everybody's wondering how they're going to spend it, a lot of that comes from this sector, and of course the pharma and other sectors as well. But this sector has a big role to play. And I suppose at a time when people are concerned about big Google tech, it's really important that we're stronger and more cohesive than ever as Indigenous tech, that's why we're so delighted to be hosting it here in VIATEL and to put a spotlight on them. And I suppose the magic of tech for Ireland is when the multinational, who has been locating here for the last number of years, decades, fuses with the homegrown. And the multinational is really about, for many of us, we've learned our trade there and gone into other businesses and brought our learnings and our skills from there and brought along other businesses in an Indigenous setting here. And the fusion when the multinational and the Indigenous come together is really powerful. And a lot of the multinationals, all the multinationals, I believe, in this country, are very strong on ensuring their supply chain, where possible, comes from Irish businesses. So that's really important that the two are dovetailing in together. We need to learn from them and see what they need on a global level, but also they need to settle down and put their roots in here, and they want to offer the hand of friendship and support in terms of business. So there's loads of business in the room for everybody. And I suppose our role in Guaranteed Irish always has been in the last 50 years, about jobs. So they're a huge job supplier. And if we have jobs in every one of our communities, be it remote or in person, those communities stay alive and those communities stay vibrant. And if those communities stay vibrant, we get to live wherever we want to around Ireland, and there isn't a pressure point on Dublin or Cork. It's all equally divided, and there's an opportunity for all the communities to thrive and survive. And I think that's really important for our values in Guaranteed Irish. And I think everybody's here as well. So in terms of promoting and supporting the sector, tech is really an important piece of that story. And we dedicate the month of April to supporting and celebrating tech businesses throughout the Republic of Ireland. Thanks to the sponsorship from VIATEL, they've been so supportive from the get-go. And when I met VIATEL first, I know Paul is ex-Microsoft himself, and he's such a powerhouse behind the company. And his side man here, Damien, is on my board of directors, and he's just fantastic in the sense of, he'll hate me saying this now, he comes on the board, it's a voluntary board, it's a thankless job, but he's constantly championing tech at board level. And we want to do different things. We want to do new stuff. We want to be edgy. We want to have more support coming in for tech. We shout about tech where we can. We can only shout about you if you're part of the story. So get involved with the Guaranteed Irish, and as we say, we are all together better when we promote ourselves collectively as one piece. And guys, it's about the circular economy. If we don't support each other, nobody's going to support you. So we need to make sure we're all dovetailing into each other. That's my piece for the morning. I'm going to hand you over now to our host, Damien McCann, who's, as I said, our tech representative on the board of Guaranteed Irish, and Damien will introduce the rest of the board. Thank you, Damien.
Thank you, Breed. So first of all, it's great to see so many happy faces here this morning, and welcome you all to our offices here in Blanchardstown. So we're very proud to be involved with Guaranteed Irish, and as I mentioned, Breed mentioned, I'm on the board of directors there championing tech. So if anyone's not a tech member of Guaranteed Irish, we'd love you guys to get involved or a member and join the revolution that is, the movement that is Breed and her team, her fabulous team. And I've been at a number of Breed's events recently, and I have to say, they've just lifted the bar in terms of the type of event that they're running. They're more modern, they're more, they're edgy, and just it's a cool organization to be involved with. So any notion you have of the old copybook and the G, if you remember back when we were all at school, you can park that notion, and it's, you know, the G is cool and trendy, so just remember that, all right? There's a couple of things some people ask why we get involved with Guaranteed Irish, and you know, when I look at it, Guaranteed Irish stands for a couple of things. The first is job creation, right? So we're very proud to be employing great people here in Ireland. Very proud to be employing nearly 300 people here across the country, here in Dublin, County Louth, Sligo, Limerick, Cork. We're all over the place, right? So we're spread far and wide, but those jobs have a knock-on impact on the communities, and also Guaranteed Irish stands for that, community, and giving back to community. And we are so, so proud of the knock-on impact of those jobs on local communities. And even myself, I think of the community that I live in. I live in rural Ireland in a small place called Louth Village. 700 people live there. And I was on the side of the Gaelic pitch last night with our under-13s team, and we won by 1 point. It was amazing. So, yes, the underdogs. I love it when the underdog wins. But the involvement in community means so much to us, and giving back to great charities, the Laura Lynn Foundation, Bernardo's, GAA, the rugby. We love getting involved in those side of things because it sets us apart from everyone else. It's culture, it's DNA, it's what we stand for. So I won't hold back in terms of welcoming our panel here this morning, and I'd like to welcome to the stage Martina Naughton, Paul Rellis, and Ronan Whelan from CSIRO.
Very good.
Yes. So,
All right.
good job the iPad is here. Laura had a plan B, which was a sheet of paper, and I said, no, the iPad's much more effective. So I just have to make sure that it's charged and ready to go. So from our side of things, what I'd like to do is make sure that we have an opportunity to introduce each of the speakers and tell us a little bit about yourself, about your role in your organizations. And Paul, we'll start with yourself and work our way across.
Thanks, Damien. So, yeah, I'm Paul Rellis. I'm the CEO of VIATEL. I joined here, as I was saying, to Breed 5 years ago when I got to know Breed first. Met her in the Starbucks there in Leeson Street. You just joined. We were there about a year in Guaranteed Irish, and it's phenomenal to see the change in Guaranteed Irish from pre-Breed and BC and whatever. I'm sure there's a nice acronym before Breed and after Breed. So, and yeah, look, we've been very proud supporters of Guaranteed Irish because we're all in Ireland, you know, we're all on this rock together in the middle of the Atlantic. We want to make a great impact here. My personal ambition after I left Microsoft was to join a great business, and what I want to do more than anything is create jobs. And the kids at home give me an awful time when I say that, because I seriously believe the most important thing we can do in business is create good jobs for people, because good people will do even better once they have a good job. And people forget when you give someone a job, you give them an opportunity. You know, it's an opportunity up or an opportunity across. And to me, that's one of the most important things we can do. I want to do that with the team here, and we're doing a great job. Damien said we have 300 people, 296 as of last Friday, so we're almost getting to 300. Yeah. We will have another 12 next week, so we're getting there, and we're investing. So scaling out a big business is what we want to do from here, but we want to do it properly. We want to do it Irish style, in the right way, at the right pace, and with big belief and commitment to the community we're in. So yeah, delighted to be here and fantastic to see everyone here today.
And Martina?
Yes, hello everybody. I am Martina. I am the Global Partner Sales Director in Ireland. I joined Microsoft almost a year ago. So in May, I'm going to be here 1 year. So my role in Microsoft is to lead a large team of people that work with our partners on the island of Ireland. And when I talk about our partners, what I'm talking about are the companies a huge amount of them are indigenous companies. Some of them are international companies. We work with them to help them and support them to sell Microsoft solutions. Those companies, back to Paul's point, are fundamentally important to growing the economy, fundamentally important to growing jobs, fundamentally important to wealth creation. So our partners are selling across public sector, enterprise, small to medium, the entire gambit of customers in Ireland. And from my point of view, our partners' success is fundamental to my success as well. So I'm really excited to be here, and there's a long list of reasons why I'm excited, but probably the first most obvious thing was it's really, really good to get out. It's really good to come here, to see these premises, to meet Paul, to meet Damien, to meet all these people, and understand a little bit more about what you're doing. Because sometimes it's really hard, you don't necessarily know what's happening. I think Guaranteed Irish have a brilliant role to play in this. I think coming together like this, sharing our stories, sharing our motivations and our vision, I think that that's very, very important. So I think Guaranteed Irish do an amazing job in driving awareness. And I guess personally, from my point of view, I'm really looking forward to this, this conversation, this chat this morning.
Excellent, thank you. Very good, yeah. And Ronan, just a short intro to yourself.
I turned 50 this year.
Woo, Ronan!
It's a milestone.
That's a round of applause.
A young lad.
You look very young.
A young lad.
I was looking at the photograph before and go, when was that taken? You know, you see these pictures of you in the past and you go, holy shit, that was 20 years ago. Anyway,
Last year. Yeah.
that's you, yeah. But so I'm 25 years in telecom, so I think, which is a bit of a shock to my system as well, but it's, I think I could be classified as a veteran of the telecoms industry. I see people from the past here, Morgan O'Callaghan, when we were in Verizon in our young days. So I spent a number of years in Verizon. And then we went on to the mobile industry, which is in 02. It was a brilliant time. There was too much money. We had too much fun. And we won tons of customers. It was fantastic opportunity to work for O2. And I ran the head of corporate sales for there. And then I came into CSIRO. So CSIRO is where I'm at now. And I've been there since the very start. CSIRO kicked off in, excuse me, May 2015. And really, I don't know if anyone remembers, but in May 2015, the broadband in Ireland was pretty crappy. So there wasn't really great opportunities. So CSIRO has been a bit of a catalyst. Sorry, this isn't a sales pitch. I'm just giving you a little bit of a story.
It is, but it's
Derek MacDonald as well there, I see as well, yeah. It was a bit of a catalyst for change and sort of really energised the broadband industry to start investing in fibre infrastructures. So I'll give you a little bit about that in the future, but it's been a great journey watching that. And listen, we're delighted to be part of this event. One, Viatel are a great customer of ours, so that's super. And their focus on proactive customer stuff is really brilliant, and it's customised and personalised. And I think the same can be said of Breed and the Guaranteed Irish stuff. Definitely, it's positive energy, building people, communities and networks and all that kind of stuff. So listen, delighted to be part of it, and great to be here as well.
We're delighted to have you here, Ronan.
Thank you.
In terms of, Martina, just back to yourself, the current landscape out there. So Breed mentioned the 10 billion that we're looking at in terms of the government's tax surplus and the positivity that's out there. But then we also see some negativity on the horizon as well. What's the current landscape like from a Microsoft perspective? What's the vibe out there in your partner ecosystem?
Sure. I guess when I look at the current landscape and from my perspective with my partner hat on, I would summarise that there's three really important trends happening. Those are security, data and AI, and sustainability. And across these three trends, our partners play a fundamental role. So when I think about security, I genuinely believe that there's not one single organisation in this country that's not subject to the potential risk associated with security. If we just look at small to medium business alone, we know based on research that half of small to medium businesses have experienced cyber security attacks or threats. And that same piece of research tells us that a typical attack, there's 10,000 euros stolen. And that's no indication of the amount of damage done from a reputation or anything like that. So I think that security is a fundamental concern in the marketplace, and our partners are investing in skills, they're building teams, they're working and developing solutions and services to meet the security concerns of our customers. When I think about data and AI, data and AI has the potential to fundamentally transform businesses. It has the potential to find efficiencies, to reduce costs, to improve profitability. You could even argue data and AI can be used to fundamentally create your unique value proposition. And again, our partners are extremely active in this area. There's many, many, many examples, but just to throw out maybe one or two as an example. Our partners are involved in solutions and services around the likes of supply chain optimization to find efficiencies in a company's supply chain end to end. They're involved in building intelligent chatbots so that we can improve in customer experience. But from an employee productivity, we can reduce the workload associated with employees. And then I guess the third one, and there are many, many more, is customer insights. They're building solutions to apply AI and machine learning to data to extract intelligence so that they can profile what is the buying behavior of your end clients, where's the sentiments of your end clients. And this all fundamentally adds to the profitability of your business. And then the last area that I think is hugely important is sustainability. So our partners, from a sustainability point of view, I would say they're involved in kind of two things. One is internal, the other is external. So internally, our partners are driving their own sustainability transformation in their organization. Several of them have plans in place to remove scope 1, 2, and 3 carbon emissions. Externally, those same partners are building, again, skills, teams, services, and solutions to allow customers to marry sustainability with their digital transformation. So in summary, all up, in my organisation, we work with over 2,000 partners in Ireland. Partners are fundamentally key to the success of Microsoft, and they are involving their own businesses to help Indigenous companies in Ireland grow.
Excellent, thank you. And Ronan, from your perspective, I know you guys have a strong partner ecosystem.
Yeah.
And you rely on your partners to get your product to market.
Yeah.
So how is the partner landscape for you guys? How's that performing?
I think Ireland is in, like, from all the big tech type environment stuff, it's in a great spot. Full employment is there. We have tons of small incubation companies started. We have loads going on, but there's a lot of real challenges. I think the uncertainty across the world, we're all feeling it. COVID stuff has really impacted us. A lot of us don't want to be in offices anymore. We kind of want to be working from other places. So that has impact for all those companies. If they're based here, what are they going to do? We've got Ukraine wars. There's a lot of instability, and geopolitics is definitely playing into the tech world significantly, where there's China versus America and all that kind of stuff. So how they interact in the world is going to be more difficult. For us, it's really just trying to engage with those partners and trying to create the right environment for them. So we have invested in a number of gigabit hubs and that kind of stuff to try and create those incubation centres. I think the tech sector as well, just in terms of a lot of the redundancies, I think that's been pretty harsh the way it's been done. In reality, I think that's the reality of what people would see. Having said that, I think a lot of those people have had immense skill sets from those experiences. And you would like to think that a lot of them will enter into the sort of the Indigenous Ireland space and use those experiences for greater opportunities. So, listen, I think things are positive, but it's definitely an unstable world at the moment. That's probably how I'd call it.
And your business model involves quite intense capital investments in terms of rollout of infrastructure. And, you know, that's not easy when you're up against huge incumbent that's in there, and then you have the government coming in with National Broadband Plan. How do you find, in terms of the investment, you know, out there raising the funds to roll out the infrastructure across the country?
Historically, the first phase, we probably break CSIRO into two phases. Phase one is when we said we'd build 500,000 fibre premises. That was definitely tough because you were selling a concept that wasn't out there. People were saying, copper's fine, 100 megs, that's grand, leave it at that. So that was definitely a big ask to get that over the line. Once fibre became more omnipresent in the industry, like everyone needs it, copper's dead, let's get rid of all the other stuff, then it became an easier thing. So securing capital a couple of years ago is when we did our second phase. It was pretty okay, actually, to be honest with you. It was decent. I think with interest rates rising and all that, accessing that large capital stuff is definitively tightening up. People are reviewing all those business cases for fibre investments and trying to understand, can I get my money back out of these things? So I think it's probably tightened a little bit at the top end of it. And I'd also say competition between ourselves, even Virgin Media, who are also a customer, and MBI is really intense. And that's a good thing for consumers in reality. But for us, it's probably a little bit more strategizing has to be done to try and navigate that world.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
On a more indigenous side of things, Paul, we've seen a lot of green shoots from that perspective in terms of jobs announcements. And, I particularly, when I see a jobs announcement, I think it's just, right, that's as good a news as you can see.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes I feel it doesn't get the big headline when it's an indigenous company and it's over on the side of a page and there's 50 jobs or 100 jobs in such and such an organization. But I think of the knock-on impact of those jobs. Paul, what's your view in terms of the indigenous landscape in tech?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I think it's very, very strong. I think, I reflect a little bit on Ireland, first of all. If you go back 50 years in the census of late 60s, 67, 68, maybe 55 years, there was 2.5 million people in the country, total population. Wow. Today, there's 2.5 million people employed in the country. It's unbelievable what's happened in Ireland. I mean, we've doubled in size, 5 million people, high levels of trust with the government, great economic growth, one of the most equal countries on the planet in terms of wealth distribution. I know people mightn't feel that, but the data tells you that, okay? So there's another side to it which we kind of have to consider a little bit, which is the whole narrative that Ireland's a kip and it's a failed state that you hear about, and it's frankly bullshit. I mean, it really is, Companies like ours saying we're going to hire 50 people. I mean, we said this on the 29th of January when the Taoiseach was here. We're going to hire 50 people, and that's a 20% increase in our workforce, which is big. It's really big. And it's small. I mean, Microsoft employs thousands and other people employ thousands, but all these 50s and 20s and so on here and there make a massive difference. And we're delighted to be able to do it. The opportunity is huge in this country. Huge, huge, huge with the multinational sector that we have. And, I love the fact that in our business, for a second, we've had, Eilish returned and worked in Ericsson and some multinationals. Gina, our CFO, joined from Global Payments. Breed, our benefits manager, was Google's benefits manager for EMEA for a few years. Niamh joined from KPMG. We've even hired some men as well along the way. Niall joined from Vodafone. He was their head of cybersecurity, our cybersecurity. Lawrence was the product manager for Vodafone Business, is now our product manager. So businesses like ours need fantastic people with global and different experiences in multinationals, as well as people who've grown up with the business and are entrepreneurial and can go very fast. And the somehow Guaranteed Irish is in the middle to kind of find a way of connecting those people into the kind of smaller businesses like ourselves. And if we do that right, it'll be fantastic.
And to the second point there, Paul, do you think we get a fair media coverage in terms of, right, so the stories often that grab the headlines, you see such and such slashing jobs or negativity grabs the headlines. Do you think the indigenous company has to work twice as hard?
Damien's really good at saying, would you answer the question that I actually asked you? No, I think it's harder to get headlines when you're not Google or Microsoft or IBM or whatever, because it's a kind of a lazy narrative that that works, which is, which is what it is. But what it does say to me is something deeper, which is the kind of economic policy that governments have had for 50 years, since that census 50 years ago, has been the same, which is great, which is invest in multinationals, bring them in, create great jobs, create a real competitive advantage in Ireland with tax and talent and so on. And now we need a similar policy for the next 50 years for businesses like ours. And it shouldn't change whoever's in government. We shouldn't allow that to change. It should be the same policy, and don't change it, because it takes 5, 10, 15, 20 years to get this thing going and right. So we don't get our fair shout. Maybe we have to work a little bit harder on that too. Maybe our sales and marketing guys could help us in that, Damien.
I left myself very open to that. Yeah. So, yeah, no, and thanks for that, Paul. Martina, from your perspective, right, so we see the FDI story, and it's fabulous, right?
Sure.
Absolutely, it's a blazing success, and Ireland has done such a good job attracting FDI companies and investment here over the years. And actually, we hosted this event last year on the Microsoft campus.
Very good.
And it's amazing out there. Yeah. I got to see the Digital River, and
it's a lovely building.
Yeah, I was blown away by it. But I guess the question is also, I see the dream space that you have there, and you invite companies in. What more can FDI do to support the Indigenous guys and Indigenous companies to be more successful? You know, put the hand down and grab them while they're at it and bring them up.
Sure. No, it's a brilliant question, Damien. So, you know, Microsoft has invested for several years in Indigenous companies, and we continue to invest in Indigenous companies. And I can give many examples, but for me, I think two really good examples would be described as Step into Tech. It's a program, and DreamSpace. I'll touch on that. But before I touch into Step into Tech, there's a statistic or a piece of research that I read not that long ago, and it really, really shocked me. So it's predicted that by 2030, there's going to be 6.2 million STEM jobs globally. Of those 6.2 million jobs, 90% require digital skills. However, only 2% of the graduates have the relevant digital skills to do those jobs. Now, if I map that back to Ireland, recent research tells us that 47% of all employees have no digital skills. So we clearly have a fundamental problem. We clearly have a very serious issue. I fundamentally believe that in order for Indigenous companies to grow, they need to be able to have the digital skills in their workforces to develop those teams, develop those offerings, develop those solutions. So in 2021, Microsoft launched a program called Step into Tech that was done in partnership with Fast Track to IT. That program is essentially an education mentoring program, and basically participants on the program can get access to a number of courses. And those courses are quite diverse. They range from coding, productivity to design. And they can do multiple courses, but upon completion of just one course, they're then invited into a 6-week mentoring circle. In that mentoring circle, they get a lot of practical tips like CV preparedness, interview techniques. And the participants also in the mentoring circles are Microsoft employees as well as other employees. So there's that information sharing going on. So when the program was announced, the target was to have 10,000 people participate in that program. So as of January this year, we currently have 9,500 people having gone through that program. So I think that's very, very important. DreamSpace. So DreamSpace is a significant investment from Microsoft's point of view. So back in 2018, we committed $5 million to creating DreamSpace. So DreamSpace it's an educational innovation hub. It allows students and teachers to come to the hub and have an immersive STEM, so science, technology, engineering, maths, interactive experience. When we initially launched DreamSpace, we had great plans. The great plans was to get 100,000 people, students and teachers, through the doors, and that plan is shelved now. And the reason why it's shelved is we currently have in excess of 180,000 people having gone through DreamSpace. We've also expanded the footprint of DreamSpace, having recently opened a DreamSpace in Belfast, and we reset our goals in the sense that now we want 1 million students and teachers through DreamSpace. So in summary, I firmly believe that investments that address the digital skills gap is fundamentally important to help Indigenous companies grow. And that's an area that we're very focused on.
Brilliant. Yeah, congratulations.
Seriously,
those numbers.
unbelievable. It deserves. Really good.
The other thing that we see is that Ireland has been very attractive to land the FDI investment over the years. The question that's probably relevant at the moment is, are we still relevant in terms of, is Ireland still a good space to land those US companies into? You see a lot of the, again, negativity in the press and around the narrative of, as Paul said, the KIP that none of us buy into. Ireland's a fabulous country.
Yeah.
Ronan, what do you think in terms of,
Yeah.
are we still a nice place to be?
Yeah, listen, the guys have detailed experience in the market. So I actually rang somebody in Google, senior person in Google actually before I came out, and I asked that exact same question. I said, what do you think, what it is? And I think definitively in terms of English speaking, yes. Part of Europe, yes, great. Education system, all those are really, really good. So we've got a great platform for continued success. Our competitiveness probably declining a little bit, and certainly with tax components that may change. I think that the techs themselves have to change because the world is dynamically changing. So they have that challenge of exactly what we were saying earlier on, which is where are people going to work and not work? So how do we keep all those people within an Ireland context? So I think it's a changing landscape, and it's one that we have to, listen, we're in a good spot, but we need to be completely paranoid to any kind of changes to ensure we stay on top, because I think any other country would give their eye teeth to be in the same position that we are in at the moment. So, but we just have to just stay ahead, and we're watching for all signs. But I think our relationships with America obviously really good, and I think myself and Paul had a conversation earlier on, which is people by people. So it actually, events like these things drag people together, and that's where the relationships and the engagements happen. I think anyone that's in sales and those knows that that's when you get the deals, really, is when people trust you. So I think that's what people do, and Paul referenced earlier on, people trust Ireland, they trust the government, and it has been stable for a number of years. So yeah, we're in a good space, but take nothing for granted.
Thanks. Paul, what do you think in terms of Ireland Inc.? Is it a nice proposition?
Oh, I think there's a huge renaissance in Irish culture, which is probably the most important thing actually for society and for business for the next 50 years. There's a lot more care and love for the language, for music, for Irish music, for poetry. I mean, I really do, and I think those things are so important. And the reason I say that is I'm convinced that the countries that have a very strong and that have confidence in their culture will be the ones that will integrate others from other parts of the world the easiest. And the countries that really integrate others from other parts of the world the easiest will be the most successful. Because we're desperately short of talent.
Yeah,
desperately short. Like I don't care. I mean, everyone knows that we're desperately short of talent. And talented people can choose to go to Ireland or Germany or Italy or the States or wherever, and they'll choose that. And most people, you know, we all work, but most people, all of us have a life outside work, and you want a great life, a great place to live, to socialise, to bring up kids, education. So I would love to see authorities put much more focus onto that than they've ever done, and really focus on that aspect of it. But we're in a super place.
Yeah. We see the infrastructure question coming up time and time again around, you know, housing, the challenges around where are people going to live if we land more people into the country, the cost of living here, etc., which are challenges we see across not only here in Ireland but in Europe. Another one that's kind of was heavy on the agenda in the last 24 months, but seems to have dropped a little bit, is the broadband rollout, and you know, it's fallen off the political agenda a little bit there. We don't see it, and it was full steam ahead. What are you seeing there, Ronan, in terms of is there pressure on from government on that side of things, or has it eased off a little?
I think your summary is right. I think it's eased off a little bit, and it's eased off because there's been a lot of success in it. That's reality what's happened. To give you a little bit of stats, because I kind of expected your question on broadband infrastructure. There's like 2.3 million premises. Don't bore the pants off, but there's about 2.3 million premises in Ireland, but there's 1.5 of them probably fibered up at this stage, or available for sale. Well over 500,000 people have fibre broadband. So like within the next 3 or 4 years, you will see fibre across all of Ireland completed, I would say. Even the National Broadband Plan, which had a really rocky start, we CIRO, we pulled out, but I would have loved to have won it personally. But that being said, MBI, great, they're doing really well. They're starting to build successfully, well over 100,000 built. That's really important to all those regional areas within Ireland. And so across all of Ireland, it's a what we would call a land grab. Everyone's trying to build it as fast as we possibly can, and that's great for everybody. So it's not ideal when you can't get it, but I think within the next, as you say, 36, 48 months, I think pretty much it'll be everywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, great.
Just to bring you in, Paul, on that, the connectivity side of things is a given, right? And we kind of take it as that's the lowest expectation level, right? We just connect premises and businesses, but without it, like these great digital services that we have and cloud services, etc., you can't flourish or deliver those services. What's your thoughts?
I'm glad you said that, Damien, because I agree with you. No, look, it's great. It's funny the way you said it, and you're dead right. This is off the agenda now because a big investment was made, and it's not there yet, but it's coming, and people can see it, and that's so right. And as you say, it's a human right in a sense to have great connectivity and have that. And the next phase then is how do we use it? How do we really build services that improve people's lives? And one of the vision we have as a company is that our digital services benefit people all over the world. Okay, and last Sunday week I had to renew my daughter's passport online. We did it at 8:30 at night after a bottle of wine. Put the thing in. It was the name was right, exactly. Yeah. Which one are you again? And it was delivered Tuesday morning, 8:30 in the morning.
It's brilliant.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
That was written by Action Point, that piece of software.
Oh.
Right, okay.
So by us. So
it's a brilliant service.
Honestly, it's a brilliant service. So again, it just shows where you get focused investment from government and from others, and fantastic people. It's a game changer, an absolute game changer. In a way, the formula is super simple. And the team at Action Point do a fantastic job of it and have done that amazingly well. And, there's millions of people that are going through this. And so that's a fantastic example of being able to do things right. And so that's why I think it's the focus on those services for humans. It's less about the technology and more what does Lisa and Paul want on a Sunday night at 8:30 after a bottle of wine. We better get this passport done by Tuesday. She said, yeah, that's it. yeah, exactly.
Excellent. Thanks, Paul. And another hot topic that we've seen recently, and in particular at the start of the year around the companies and they're announcing their gender pay gaps. And I'd like to bring Martina in on this.
Sure.
Different sectors performed. Some sectors were really strong. Other sectors we see have a lot of work to do in that space. Martina, from your perspective, what more can the tech sector do to improve?
Okay, it's a really, really, really good question. I guess before I dive into it, I just think there's one thing I want to put out there. So I want to highlight something that I've looked into in a bit detail, which I describe it as the gender STEM gap. So the gender, science, technology, engineering, maths gap. So up until junior cert, girls and boys do the same profile of subjects, okay? Come leaving cert, the girls, women who are participating in biology and chemistry subjects far outpasses their male counterparts. And an important statistic is that their participation in physics goes down. So if you think about that trend and then you map it to the landscape in Ireland, the jobs market, engineering and ICT jobs, their salaries are higher, they pay more, yet only a third of those jobs are occupied by women. So I believe fundamentally that to try and address the gender pay gap, you need to go back earlier and you need to look at schools. So I've already touched on Step Into Tech and I've already touched on DreamSpace, but there's just 3 things I'd really like to say really quickly about that. There are more programs, and one of them that's particularly resonates with me is this STEM passport, STEM investment and passport program. And effectively, that's a program. It's an educational mentoring program, but it's targeting specifically young women, females, that are in socially, economically disadvantaged areas. Participation up until this point is close to 1,300 people. About 2 years ago, another program, Microsoft decided to invest in a female scholarship program in Trinity College. So Trinity College is doing an MSc in quantum computing. Now, I've come from the world of HPC, and you know the evolution of HPC. There's a fundamental large collection of workloads that are quantum computing. If you look at that world, there's so little women in that world. It's the hard end of physics. It's the hard end of maths. Since we invested in this female-focused scholarship in Trinity College, in just 1 year, the participation has jumped by 40%. That's really important because it opens up a world of new careers, but also it opens up, I always consider, new communication community of women who go into this and become mentors and role models and sponsors for possibilities for women in quantum. And I think the final thing I'd like to talk about is Founders Hub. So Founders Hub in Ireland, it's a Microsoft program, and I'd summarize it as a collection of supports. And those supports range from access to technology, to networking, to mentoring. And when we actually take that collection of supports for founders, for startups, we map it to a value, and it's got a value of about 350,000 euros. That community in Ireland is extremely active, and in 2 years alone, we've 300 companies. But of those 300 companies, 30% are companies that are founded by women. This is really, really inspiring. It's really exciting. Some of those companies, I think some of them are household names at this moment in time, the likes of Food Cloud. We have MadMe, we have Swoop. But again, the supports in place for women founders paves the way for a new ecosystem and for more mentors and for this kind of chain reaction to get more women into STEM. And back to my point, the higher the participation of women and girls in STEM-based subjects funnels into careers that are in STEM. And we know for a fact that those careers are higher paying. And then invertedly, we help to close the gender pay gap.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, well done. And Paul, from your side of things, I know, right, so you're sitting in the CEO chair, and with that role, I think there is an onus in terms of, closing the gender gap, offering, diversity, fairness across organizations. What more can we do in the tech sector?
I mean, I have to say it's very inspiring to hear what you just talked about with Microsoft, because it is massive in terms of the focus. And what I love about that is that it's kind of recognizing the problem and shining a light on it and being transparent. And so the first thing is we shouldn't shy away from the problem.
Yeah.
We just, it's an issue. It's there before us. We should understand it and do some of the fundamental things. Go back to the foundation, like you've said, and try and improve it that way. I think it also, it's interesting. As I was listening to you, I have 4 daughters, so making leaving cert choices and junior cert choices and everything, and there's all kinds of individual issues as well. But your point's really well made, and when I reflect on it, I think there is an onus on business leaders to really ask themselves, do they have some kind of unconscious bias, to use that phrase everyone uses, and how would they make their business stronger with better people? And even starting at that level, if you say, as a business leader, how would I make my department, my group, my team, my business stronger with better people? And then open your eyes totally to the universe of people that could be employed from anywhere in the world, not just male, female, but from anywhere in the world. What difference would it make? I think you get different outcomes. And I think over time, you really start to come at this problem from a different angle as well.
Yeah.
So again, for me, it's much more about creating business value. The best team you can possibly have is the team that's the most diverse, that has the best, different styles, backgrounds, challenges, and we're living that. We're not perfect, but done a great job on it, and we're living that, and it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and thanks for everything you do in that space. And from a Viatel perspective, I can see firsthand the benefits of having diversity in the organisation, and it's a real cool place to be.
Yeah, I mean, we've people from 21 countries.
Yeah,
21 countries, unbelievable. So there's a lot to be gained from people from all over the world.
Yeah,
there really is.
Bring you in on that one, Ronan. From a CIRO perspective, what are you seeing?
I'd probably personalise a little bit. I think so. I said I was a veteran, right? 25 years, but I definitely have had moments where I've looked back on my management career, whatever you want to call it, and I think definitely to the word that's used there, that the unconscious, you definitely make decisions or have made decisions in the past that had unconscious bias. And I think there's probably a bit of a requirement from a leadership, business leader, whatever you want to call yourself, to challenge your own ignorances, really. That's what it is. And we all have them. And certainly I've had them over the years. And CIRO now has been probably a great learning curve as well. Because we have, the reference I have from Amanda, which is 67% of our management team is women. So I'm surrounded more by women than men, which is a good thing, by the way. And 50% of the board and that kind of stuff, and we've 30% in general in terms of our full employment. Now, this is 30% when it's historically, we're building networks, so it's builders and people like that. So it's a completely landscape change from what we had in the past. So we've done a lot of work. We've got a great HR director, Blonid, and Amanda, a corporate affairs director. They're all driving the agenda for it, which is like we have open doors stuff where we brought in a number of Ukrainians, and one or two on my team as well, and we're working through those returnees to work. And I think Paul and Martina, different nationalities across, diversity is 10 times better than a monolithic male culture. And certainly with daughters and with wives, you certainly over the years have seen experiences of just decisions of male friends picking male friends for jobs and that kind of stuff. So there's no space for it at all. And I think the drum has been beaten, and feel it needs to continue to beat, because it's a number of years left to go before you get to the end of that journey, and it's we have to deal with other stuff. But yeah, so a lot more progress, but more to do.
Yeah, and I think that's a common consensus across each of the panelists today. A lot done, but more to do. Reminds me of
somebody well known.
Yeah. I think it was so we won't go there. I guess moving on in terms of, and I see our friends here from Armour Point, which is our new cybersecurity partners, and we've been working with the team there for a number of months to get them to this stage. It's great to see you all here in Ireland, so you're very welcome. But the cybersecurity landscape that we're seeing, and we've seen a lot of high-profile cyber breaches, and it's top of the agenda. These topics are, these are the things that are keeping people awake at nighttime, thinking, is my business safe? But I guess, what can we do to mitigate these threats? The view is that you'll never be 100% safe from a cyber risk, but any trends that you're seeing in mitigation, or what's at the edge, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, I firmly believe, you'll never, you can never fully outsource this problem of cybersecurity to a partner or a supplier or a vendor. It's just not doable. We're getting to the point where the cyber risk is uninsurable. I mean, I'm not sure there'll be that insurance companies will actually, the insurance industry actually will cover cyber risks in the next 18 to 24 months, because the losses they're facing and the risks they're facing are just too big, like colossal, absolutely colossal. So nation states are actually coming in to support insurance companies right now on that. I mean, it's happening in the UK. So it's a real problem, and I think there's a big opportunity to. The way, if you remember in finance in the last 20 years, after the financial crash in 2001, kind of early 2000s with Enron, they brought in this legislation called Sarbanes-Oxley, which fundamentally had to change the accounting and finance world. And a similar compliance regime is going to have to come in on cybersecurity. You're going to have to force companies, especially businesses that are really key to life. So, banks, insurance companies, companies like ours and others, they're just absolutely key. Companies like Microsoft, like CSIRO. I mean, we have to be even more, take the agenda even more seriously. So, yeah, look, it's extremely important. It's not a sales pitch at all. It's one of the big things in life that you fear. You could talk forever about AI and impersonation, but it's a real issue. And you only find things in the world really changing when it costs people a lot of money. And that's what's happening right now.
Sure. Martina, I know you.
Yeah, I mean, I'd echo an awful lot of what you just said, Paul. From my point of view, I think it's fundamentally important that customers, companies, partners are prepared. So as much as possible, prepare to prevent an attack, as much as possible to respond when an attack happens, and as much as possible to recover from an attack with the minimum amount of damage, both financially and reputationally. So it is very frightening what's happening out there. If I look at the digital defense report that we from 2021, it describes the scale, the scope, and the sophistication of the attacks as increasing, almost accelerating. That's very, very concerning. Yet me personally, I was shocked when I read the PwC report recently. What I'm hearing based on the PwC report is that CEOs are reducing their investment in security. We know from reports and from research that small to medium businesses have experienced multiple cyber security attacks at significant costs, again, financially and reputationally. And I guess the last thing I'd say about that, how you get a lot of information. The world has almost got too much information. There's certain things that resonate with you. When I read about the SMB trends, the one thing that really, really rattled me, and this is a global statement, is that 60% of those small to medium businesses that have experienced an attack closed down for good, shut down within 6 months. Jesus. That's really concerning. So I guess my fundamental point is investment in security is absolutely essential in this digital age. Yep.
Thanks, Martina. And Paul said he won't do the sales pitch, but I will. So we have, as I mentioned, our friends from Armour Point here today, and have been, working with our team over the last number of months. If anyone has any concerns, any topics they wish to talk about around cybersecurity, we would love to engage with you. We'd love to set up a session. The guys are on site today. We can grab a coffee. But we have deep expertise in this space. Some of the people that have joined the team over recent months, we're doubling down in this space. So it's a really exciting time for ourselves. And our CTO here, Eilish O'Connor, is leading the charge with Lauren and Niall on our team. So we'd love to get involved. Share a problem shared is a problem halved. So share that problem and share that challenge with ourselves. The other thing I'd just say is that we have one more question for the panelists. And we're going to hand over the mic to yourselves. So if you have any questions or I don't want that silence when I say, is there any questions? Challenge us with some questions, right? Don't be embarrassed. We're all friends in here. So when the roaming mic goes around, pick it up and ask the question, okay? The last question, and I'll share this with each of the panelists, but in terms of looking to the future, right, and seeing the trends that are out there. We hear a lot about AI and cybersecurity, as we mentioned. What do you guys think from the next 5 years? What's on the landscape? What's coming down the track that everyone should be in the know about, or certainly interested about from a technology perspective? And Paul, I will start with you.
Look, I think clearly the pace of change in artificial intelligence is unbelievable. I mean, even in a week, what's changing is extraordinary. So I think as a society, getting our hands on that, and getting a handle on that, and getting a kind of a global industry platform that says this is how we're going to adopt it, this is how we're going to use it, this is who gets it, this is who can share with it, this is, so cooperation on that's going to be massive. And it reminds me of the airline industry. If you go back 30 or 40 years, the airline industry who competed against each other all came together and said, we're going to have safety standards across, compliance and support across all airlines. And of course, the accident rate went way down. So that is so important. So we cannot leave, we cannot let that happen to AI, what we let happen to social media in the last 5 years, which has got out of control and has enormous personal and social consequences for people. So I think that's something so it's not the tech, it's how we use it.
Yeah, agreed. And Ronan, bringing you in, what's your thoughts?
I agree with the AI. I'm no expert on that. I think for me, I love devices. I love technology. So the phone itself, I'm curious. The smartphone itself, 1992. I think the smartphone. It's only 20 years, but it's amazing, right? But it's clunky, right? So I'm kind of interested. What's the next phone type thing that we do? So carrying around this block all the time probably isn't the future. So I think the next 5 years, I'm really keen to see consumer-wise what impacts on that. So that'd be my thing. The collaboration tools from a business work area as well. Obviously, we are all working more and more different areas and that kind of spaces. I think there's probably more advances from that in terms of the collaboration tools. More an enabler rather than a transformation, but that'll be it. I would agree with you on the security stuff. I did nearly get caught with those texts, those security texts, bloody things. And I changed every password, every card, everything. And I think the guy's reference was exactly true. It's only when it hits your own pocket did you go, holy shit, I'm going to lose X amount of money if I don't get this right. So I think to armor point in yourselves, I think it's the right space and Microsoft, obviously, security is so important. I even looked at my phone then and I could see how many data breaches every app, when you have I think every single one of them had a data breach. There was like 100. I had to change passwords on everything. Yeah. So I was just like, wow. That's
scary stuff.
But the phone, I'm interested in what happens to the phone.
Yeah, yeah. And I'll just share. It came to me there while you were speaking there, Ronan, in terms of the consumer side of things. My wife's away traveling at the moment, and she's in Poland on business. And I went downstairs this morning, and my 6-year-old daughter was having her breakfast while on a Google Display call with Grania, and she'd set it up all herself. I was like, checking in at 7 a.m. this morning. So I think the next generation are like light years ahead, If that's what they're doing at 6 years of age, God knows where it's going to be when they're, into their teens, etc. And Martina, I'm going to give the last word on this to yourself.
Okay.
What's your thoughts?
Because I think that, AI has been around for a long time. AI is not a new thing. However, this moment in time, it's astonishing. The rate and pace and speed of innovation is extraordinary. Only last week, I was speaking with some colleagues that are in the industry more than 30 years, and they're telling me they have never seen this amount of innovation. I think that the potential for AI to really contribute positively to the world is enormous. Whether that is gaining insights to improve medicine, to improve business, whether it's gaining insights to improve security, I think the potential is absolutely astonishing. I think the ability for AI to drive productivity, to drive growth, to reduce drudgery in work, to increase creativity, the list goes on.
Sure.
It's interesting, the past few weeks alone, and actually my boss, Anne Sheen, was actually saying this yesterday, the amount of calls that we've received from CEOs across the country is really, it's in the hundreds, trying to, understand, how they can, what is AI going to do for their business? What's AI going to do for the productivity of their teams? So that list goes on. But I do think what is very, very important is with great technology like AI and what it can do positively, there's also a great responsibility. So Microsoft it has signed up and is a fundamental believer in responsible AI by design. And what we mean by that is everything you do in terms of design around AI, it's based on a core set of principles. And it's a long set of principles, but fundamentally you're talking about accountability, you're talking about transparency, you're talking about safety, you're talking about security, you're talking about fairness. It's quite a long list of principles. So I think that that's very, very important as we look at the evolution and the rate and pace of change of innovation that we're currently experiencing.
Thank you. And I'm glad you mentioned the responsibility there, because there always is that kind of ethical balance that we have between these evolving techs and
absolutely
what we have to protect our people and
sure.
At the end of the day.
Our people and society.
And society in general.
Absolutely.
Sure. At this stage, I'm going to open it up to the floor, and no doubt there's some questions, and we have a roaming mic somewhere. Yes. So jump in with a question. Anyone raise? Here we go. And first question there.
Scott Bewley from PwC.
Hi, Scott.
Hi. It's great to be at the event, so thanks very much for having us all here. I just got a bit of probably a boring question. There's a lot of regulation coming through from the European Union. The Digital Services Act, the Digital Marketing Act, Markets Act, the Artificial Intelligence Act. How well prepared do you think Irish business is for all of this regulation?
Would you like to direct the question, or will I?
Don't direct it at me, but
go ahead, Damien.
I'm not answering that.
Paul.
I'll answer it. So I think Scott's a very good point. Also with cybersecurity, there's a lot of regulations coming through, and as always, we're totally unprepared, and we always resist. People always go, "That's just too much. It's too much compliance." And then over time, you find actually it's really important. And you can look at the EU over the last 50 years, compliance around workers' rights, around healthcare, and eventually you see over time this is really important because it gets everyone to a high standard. So I would say in summary, probably if you're like us, you could be better prepared. Let me put it nicely like that. And we better get prepared for it to happen because it's coming at us.
Sounds like Scott wants to help us in that.
Yeah.
You're in.
Okay. Any other questions? Here we go. Front row.
It's Niall Halpin here. Just one question. If you look across the verticals in Ireland, which one do you think is a technology laggard that technology could really help them?
Oof. Good question. And
there's a few. I mean,
if
you look as a personal examples, you sometimes look at financial services, banks, and you go, honestly, what's going on? And then you understand they have big compliance issues, and so that's always one. I think healthcare is another area that, just as a person, you say, God, I wish I didn't have to tell them that about my ingrown toenail in 5 different places or whatever. Wish that was there. So those are two. Government services broadly are not connected enough. They're just not connected enough. Passport applications, superb. The Department of Social Welfare on its own, superb, and so on. But they're just not connected. So I think those are some areas that spring to mind for me.
Yeah.
The revenue are good too. Usually.
Revenue
They are actually one of the better sites.
Actually, I was using the revenue service similar to the passport example you gave earlier on, Paul. But revenue services is actually quite good, quite progressive. I think that I agree with your comments, Paul. I think a lot of the description or the behaviour that is symptomatic of a laggard, you often wonder, is it because of the profile of the sector? Very large organisations, maybe characteristics that's slower to change, very heavily regulated. But I would agree that they're the segments I see that slowness. Yeah.
Very good.
If I was to come in on that, I would say, and I live in rural Ireland, I think the agriculture sector, right? So we've seen some fabulous examples of tech helping the agri sector. And I think that the really big farms benefit, the guys that are investing in technology, drone technology, in terms of automated machinery, etc. And we see some fabulous case studies there, but there certainly is a gap in terms of medium-sized agricultural practices. Family farms are left behind there, you know, and they can't afford the investment there because they can't reach to that scale. So I think there's a lot of room for improvement around the agri sector, which ties into the National Broadband Plan and connectivity being available in all these rural areas. So that's just my view on it. So, and planning as well, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for your question. Oh gosh. Luke.
Luke.
Yeah, it's coming out.
You don't need to look.
Just an interesting one about the, I suppose, being nearly scammed, Ronan, on text message, from a company that has, potentially about 500,000 end customers. Creating a trusted communication channel with patients is a big challenge.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's elderly people or not so tech savvy, or even the tech savvy ones. But how do you see the technology being able to communicate with people in a safe and secure way that they trust that you are who you are? How do you think that's going to evolve? To Paul and Martina, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, if I start, Martina, because it's a difficult one.
It's a difficult one, yeah.
I mean, I think authentication and authentication of who you are, who you say you are, is really, really, really difficult. And I don't know technically how it gets solved. I do think there's a very important set of almost standards or compliance that has to happen. So if you're going to play with on the internet, let's say, you got to pay as a business. You got to be able to prove to people that you are who you say you are. I don't know how technically you do it, but I feel like some kind of legislation and compliance will have to come in, and that's a very difficult thing, because then you start regulating the internet in a way we have never regulated before. But I don't see any other option actually but to start at that place.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Nothing to add.
Okay, one more question. Here we go. Yeah.
Thanks very much. Philip is my name. We're a startup, Push Me. I was just interested to hear Paul's comment around, you're desperately short of talent. So just because we're in the space of helping, developing, and retaining people, so what kind of people development initiatives are landing best with your workforce?
Just let me repeat the question for the people at the back. So what people development strategies are landing best with our workforce here in Viatel? So to Paul.
Yeah, I think the focus on our culture, on getting people to just understand where we're going as a business, why we're doing things, why we're here, really helping people understand that work is work and it shouldn't destroy your life. It should be life enhancing. So we really, really, really take that to heart. Giving people the freedom to go after big goals and the empowerment to do those things. Caring for people when they're down or they're in trouble or they're at some point in their lives where things aren't going right, because it happens to all of us that we go this way, all of us. And really caring for people more than anything. And I don't mean that in a soft way, but saying, look, can we help you? Let's get you on track. Let's keep you going. Let's support you. So all of those things are very important. I mean, work is work, right? So you can work anywhere. Yeah. You'll get the same kind of plus or minus amount of money. But it's trying to get that extra buy-in from people is what's most important to us. And I think people reflect on that. It's amazing. I was in here yesterday and I was talking to someone saying, I haven't seen so many people in our business with smiles on their faces as I saw yesterday. You feel it, and that's a great feeling. Yeah.
Sales.
They deserve it.
Sales are good, yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
People are getting paid.
That gives you a smile.
It's infectious.
Very good.
Thank you, Paul. Probably time for one or two questions.
One question. So
Alish.
obviously there's two areas that I'm quite passionate about. That's obviously encouraging girls into technology and supporting that local community. So I was one of the rare girls that went into physics after school, coming from Tipperary. And I suppose, how do we make sure that the focus on encouraging female talent into technical roles and education is not just Dublin centred? Because I do see a lot of the initiatives And the Even Dream Space is fabulous, but how do we get more girls from rural areas to get benefit from that? And not just girls, but boys as well.
Sure. I mean, I think it's a brilliant question. I mean, I myself, I'm not quite rural. I'm based in Kildare, but I do have 3 girls, and like that, you know, they have completely different educational desires and aspirations. So how do you ensure that locally they understand the possibilities when their career guidance might talk in an all-girls school about, you know, roles that maybe doesn't align with maybe where STEM is going? So I think that there are a number of things that you can look at, and for me, what I see is there's a wide network of community educational organisations across the country. I think locally you need to kind of find them. You need to find out who's actively involved in promoting these kind of things. I know that in my own community there are a number of peers who volunteer, programming who volunteer in having meetups, who volunteer in showcasing and coming to schools and talking about their own work. So I have friends who are, you know, scientists, who are mathematicians, whatever, and they'll proactively go in and talk to their class where their kids are, and they'll actually talk about their careers. Now, that's a grassroots approach, and it's individuals, and sometimes there's not-for-profit organisations involved. But I think if you want to kind of get that reach across the whole country, there's also an element of that. And I know Microsoft is also involved in a number of those partnerships. But yeah, it has to be not just Dublin-centric, not just big city-centric. It has to be all over the country.
Yeah. I probably just add a little bit. I think probably great to see Anne O'Leary get the head of Meta. So obviously he has a big job already, but that was important. Ailish actually spoke at a Fibre to the Home Council for us last year. So I actually think it's people like you that are potentially inspiring the people beyond them. So I think breaking through those things and showing what's possible, I think that goes a long way. Sorry, I'm not answering the full question, but that's what I've seen in terms of the impact that you have, or we are CTO, Suzanne Tracy, and these are the people that are showing it. Yeah, I can do this. That's possible.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
that'll be my take.
I agree. Yeah.
Okay, one last question, and do we have
One at the back.
in the interest of gender diversity, there's a lady at the very back, and Stephen, we might chat over coffee, but there's someone there at the back, and we have a mic for you. Hopefully it's.
Yeah. Oh, great. Thanks very much. I think you covered a broad spectrum today, so I've a couple of questions. Well, a statement. I think I looked at AI dilemma, and Luke, who mentioned about verification of yourself online. It will blow your mind as to what's actually coming down the line with regards to verification, but I'd recommend watching that. My question is actually around that STEM piece in schools, and fundamentally that the system is broken and creating a very kind of leaky pipeline of females within STEM. And I know this is a big question, but how do we enable students to self-serve when they're moving from school into that third level piece? Because when they move into third level, there's a huge dropout rate because people haven't really identified their skills and their interests to remain within third level. So how do we better enable that so that we are improving that pipeline into tech, whether it be female or male, whoever is moving into tech?
Excellent question. Paul, bring you in.
It's a huge question. And I honestly don't feel kind of like deeply qualified enough to answer. But what I do reflect on my own kind of circumstances and family and so on, it is really hard for kids, teenagers, to choose and be stuck in something. It's super hard in fifth year, sixth year, when you just haven't got a clue. I mean, all you think about is next Friday night and next Saturday night, and honestly, and that's all you should think about actually. So it's very, very, very hard. So yet on the other side, I don't know how you set up some kind of fluid education model. But maybe that has to start earlier, that people are allowed to, to move fluidly between schools or kind of, department, university schools, university departments. That is super hard to do, but it's doable. And I suppose if you took a different lens and said, it's not about just the university years, it's about 10, 15, 20 years of learning, or the whole life of learning. Do you build a program for people that gets them learning over time, you know? So don't know the answer.
I mean, I think it's a massive question. I think it's not an easy question to answer, but I mean, just in my own experience, you know, there are some. It's not systematic, and it's not at educational level. It's not at a government level. At least in my awareness, it's not. But I do see green shoots, and I guess unfortunately there is a financial cost to enter into them. But just from my own personal experience, if you have, you know, in your family kids who are at the particular high end of you know, abilities, I often feel that the system sometimes fails them, because there's a lot of supports when you're at the other end, but when you're at the high end, you know, the system sometimes fails them. And what that means is the probability of disengagement is very high. What it also means is that there's a sense of isolation, because they can't necessarily find like-minded, you know, people, and they feel odd and disenfranchised. There are places like Dublin City University, who have created the Centre for Talented Youth, and they bring in kids as young as 7 who just academically are really, really high performing, and they give them that opportunity to code, to do maths, to do science experience, and they stay close to those kids throughout all of their journey. So they have evolved it from, you know, very young stage right up to secondary school, right up to transition year. So if you are that child who's on the high end of academia, and you really want to understand what actually does medicine really mean, what is that? Like, I thought I might want to be a doctor, but I have no idea. You can, well before you even think about university, explore those subjects. I mean, I think that's very good, okay? And that's a program that brings students from all over the country. We need more of that. And I actually did, because it's a personal thing, I did a bit of a qualification on, is this a money-making exercise, or really and truly how transformative is it? And I asked people outside of DCU who are quite advanced in their career in education, and they're saying that it really is making a difference to, you know, kids understanding where they potentially want to go, and understanding if you're 100% in physics, maths, and biology, no, you're not. You're not weird. You know, because you don't want to go to the disco on Friday night, you're not weird. There's other people like you. So I think more of that would be my summary. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice one.
Thank you. Okay, so unfortunately we're running out of time, and at that stage, we're going to bring the panel discussion to a close. I'd like to say a heartfelt thank you to our panel. You guys were fabulous, and well done.
Damien.
So, yeah. And very open and candid. So it was great to see that. And thank each and every one of you for coming along this morning. Me personally, Breed, thank you for giving us the opportunity to be involved in Tech Month. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to help with Guaranteed Irish a little bit. And it's a really great organisation. I'm so proud to be involved with it. I'm going to call on Breed just to say a couple of words just to close and wrap up for today. So, Breed.
And thank you to Damien.
Yes.
Brilliant job, Damien. Yeah.
I just want to round off by saying I just took a few notes on my phone, which is very big, you're right, but I couldn't read it otherwise. And that happens when you get old, so sorry about that. So I just want to say I feel really energized after that discussion. Do you guys? And I just think there's more need for more of this, because you're all in the tech space, and it's about different parts of tech, and no piece of tech is a solution for any of tech. We all need the component parts. So for me, I really found that energizing. I found it insightful. It's really, I suppose, there's a great sense of satisfaction when you see the multinational, the homegrown Indigenous, and the guys who are building the networks, all working together to make a better Ireland. So for me, I really feel safe and I suppose empowered by the fact that so many people are involved and working together. For me, I'm going to address a couple of things. I'm going to have to take up that last point about the kids in school, because I see it myself as a mother.
Yeah.
A lot of the times the kids are stretched so far in the Irish system, Irish, English, maths, history, geography, physics, and then if you're lucky and you're not in rural Ireland, you might be allowed to physics, economics, which I was dying to do and couldn't do when I was at school 100 years ago. But I remember thinking, you know, why? So those subject choices are wonderful to have the choice, but you shouldn't have to do any of them. So for the guy or the girl who's fantastic at physics and honors maths and coding, they might hate Irish and English.
Yeah.
And very often they are dyslexic.
Yeah.
And it doesn't suit them at all. And a foreign
Yeah.
language. And most of the
point.
universities in Ireland, you can't get in without your European language. And some of the Irish, the other universities, you have to have Irish. So, and the day of, you know, when I was at school, I don't know if this is still a thing actually, if you failed maths or you failed Irish, you failed your entire leaving cert, which is so unfair on the talented kids at the other end.
Yeah.
And so many kids are coming through. And one of the biggest charities I am really support a good few of them, not financially, I'm afraid enough, but in my mind and my ethos is particularly people on the spectrum who are really talented but struggle with so many other aspects. And this is the area they can shine. And if we're serious about being diverse, we have to make room at the table for those. So we really need to look at our, I think, second level forced entry to subjects to look at that, whereas in the UK they have their 3 or 4 A levels. That's it. It works. It's really intense, and they go deep and they go hard and they get it right a lot of the time. And yet we're seen as a much higher standard of education. So there's something wrong somewhere. We need to look at that. Now that's my rant for the day. The other thing is that the team around me would be delighted to hear that. That's it's not going to be my gang. The other thing I want to address is KIP. The idea of the word KIP being associated with Ireland. That hurts my feelings. I never want to hear that word again. Paul Rellis, you started it. So I think KIP is really cruel. I think KIP for me stands for three things. K, we're kind. I, we're intelligent. And P, we're progressive. So we're happy. And the last thing I want to say is sustainability. We're all empowered and all driven. For the rest of my life, we're going to be talking about sustainability.
Yeah.
There are so many challenges out there and we have so much to do. Guaranteed Irish in its force to try and create, I suppose, support those jobs, support those communities out there, which the guys are so good at here, all the speakers, companies. It actually, de facto, is a definition for sustainability in Ireland. So if you're not part of the Guaranteed Irish project, if you like, and the movement, that's fine. We're not going to browbeat you into it, but you're missing out. That's all I'll say. On the last note, my friend at this stage, Damien, has been fantastic.
Yes.
He really shouts for technology. Get behind him, make technology part of the Guaranteed Irish success story that we are. And for our success in Guaranteed Irish, I'd like to thank the team. They are an amazing team. We've had the best team we've ever had in Guaranteed Irish in 50 years. We're going to be 50 next year. And these guys, stand up all of you so they can see you, because they're a powerhouse. And Ger, you're joining us. And Ger is in the audience, who's joining us next week. So we're really delighted to have them, and we could not get ourselves out of the ditch that we were in only for this team, and they're amazing. So thank you for that, and enjoy the rest of your day, everybody.
Thanks, Bree.
Thank you. Great.
Thanks a lot, Martina, for coming.
That was good. Thank you so much. Thank you.